Michigan State football, yes, they land the top offensive tackle remaining in the portal, Connor Moore. And then, yeah, your basketball Spartans, how about 9 straight victories, doing it again on the road? Oh, my God.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. For example, hey, you know what? Michigan State back Wednesday against Penn State. Go ahead, use Game Time to catch these white-hot basketball Spartans. But first, before we get to any of that, please rate, review, subscribe, comment below your thoughts on the Connor Moore transfer to Michigan State, because Justin Sin of 24/7 Sports, the host of the Spartan Spotlight podcast, hey, You're the guy that was kind of on top of this. You were the one that sniffed out that, yeah, he's visiting Michigan State, and that's very exciting. And here we are. He commits to the Spartans, and I'm going to give a quick tale of the tape here. 6'5", 310-pound player. He was a redshirt sophomore for Montana State last season, FCS first-team All-American. Of course, first-team All-Big Sky. In 16 games and 900 snaps, he gave up just 11 pressures last year. And like I said over there at 24/7 Sports, Justin, you guys had him as the top remaining offensive tackle in the portal. Point blank, I'm ready to call this portal cycle an overall victory for Michigan State. They have improved at a few other position groups, receiver being another one, of course. But, hey, the worry was the offensive line. This is big enough where I think that, yes, it is declared a victory for Michigan State on paper. Do you match those feelings, Justin? What are your thoughts on this big Connor Moore get?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that everyone has to keep in mind is that anytime you're going portal shopping for an offensive tackle, the people that you're mostly targeting are a little overrated.
Sure.
And it's just because, it's slim pickings and everyone kind of needs one, but there's not really many guys that enter. So there's a little bit of a worry off the bat as kind of like a disclaimer that I put out there. But now talking about it from kind of the sense of how big this is for Michigan State at the same time. Last year, Michigan State, the right side of their offensive line was Brandon Baldwin and Ashton Lepo. And somehow Aiden Childs made it through all 12 games, standing upright. And this time you're looking at, ideally, Chris Phillips coming back from injury, because he was the one that originally won the right guard spot out of camp, but then got hurt early on. And then you have Connor Moore, who we're told he's going to be the right tackle. That was what Michigan State talked to him about. That was the plan right there.
Gotcha.
Cincinnati, one of the reasons that Michigan State was nervous for a second there, in addition to the mega offer that they also put out, was that they were letting him play left tackle, which is what he played at Montana State. So that's kind of what the sales pitch there was. But Michigan State said, no, we think in the NFL you'd be a right tackle. We want you to come play right tackle here. They also have great faith in Stanton Ramble, who was the left tackle this past season. He did okay, redshirt freshman. So you're looking at an offensive line now that from left to right ideally should go Stanton Ramble at left tackle, and then the winner of Gavin Brocious, Rakeem Johnson, Luka Vincic from Oregon State, the other transfer that they picked up that I think we both agreed was a good warm body, somebody competitive, someone that enhances the competition there.
Experience.
Exactly.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, and 2 years left. So that's kind of the left guard battle. And then Matt Golbin from Wake Forest, who last year his grade at Wake Forest, which again, power forward level, would have been better than anybody on Michigan State's offensive line. It was clear of Luke Newman, who was Michigan State's best offensive lineman this past season, who departed. So that's the level of player you're getting there. I think he might even end up being the best graded Michigan State offensive lineman this upcoming season. But then you're looking at right guard Chris Phillips again, and then right tackle Connor Moore. So again, I don't know how many of those guys end up being all Big Ten even. But the 5 guys from left to right and whoever wins the left guard, assuming they were solid and that's why they won the battle, I think this offensive line for the first time, I don't know in how many years you want to specifically say, you can start diving into the 18 and 19 O-lines and things like that, or maybe it's 17, maybe it's 15, but I think there's competency all across the board. And then more so than that, there's depth behind all these guys. The 2 losers of the left guard battle, both of those guys could come in. And if Rakeem Johnson loses that and Luka Vincic, let's say, loses that to Brocious, Vincic is basically your depth at all 3 interior line spots. Rakeem Johnson probably the main kind of backup at center. even though he played left tackle as a low 3-star out of Idaho as a true freshman against Ohio State. So, and then they like Peyton Stewart at left tackle. He was part of the signing class last year. He redshirted all year. Rustin Young, they're really high on. He's probably the first guy I would expect to be coming off the bench, if not Ashton Lepo. I guess Lepo has the experience, but I think Rustin Young is on trajectory to eventually pass him up. Maybe it's 2026, but yeah, kind of long monologue aside there, just wrapping it up. Like, that's kind of who, like, there's not really a guy that's going to come in and you're like, oh, like, he's for sure going to the NFL. Not even Connor Moore, I would say, is a for sure thing. As we talked about offline, like, he played great, only 11 pressures, but I think you pointed out to me, I think 5 pressures were against North Dakota State. So I don't think he's going to be bulletproof, but I think if he's a step above, a clear step above Ashton Ramel and the other 4 guys do their job, this could be a competent offense line for the first time in a while.
Yeah, it's 2 things. One is that D word you just used a little bit ago, depth. Am I saying that correctly? Because
Yes.
I'm very unfamiliar with using that word around the offensive line, at least as it pertains to last season. So just right off the bat, okay, plethora of guys that have actually, played FBS or FCS All-American football in Connor Moore's instant. But the second one, yes, even let's say he just comes in and he's just fine. He's okay, or like a slightly above average. Like, that is such a marked improvement for this offensive line. Like, this isn't an offensive line that's going to be top 3 in the Big Ten, okay? Or, you know what? Surprise me, guys. Prove me wrong, okay? Clip that out. Make that be your motivation. But just give us something average to work with, because that was not anywhere close to that last year, respectfully. So just give this run game something to work with. Give Aiden Chiles something to work with. And this was kind of like you just said, Justin, the best case scenario for what you can find out of the portal for offensive tackle. Not a lot of starting surefire offensive tackles in FBS are just leaving. Okay, sometimes it's going to be a guy that's, a second or third stringer, or the best case scenario right here, someone that has come from a lower level group of 5 football or FCS, high level FCS football, and join the portal. So they got it done. And that's where I want to ask you next is, like, how impressive is it that they got this done? Because I'm seeing, okay, he's going to Cincinnati. Hey, he's an Ohio born and raised kid. You also said they had a ridiculous offer for him. He was also supposed to go to Ohio State. There was an SEC school sniffing around for him. They didn't even let him get to Columbus before they locked him up. Like, how did this happen, Justin? This is impressive.
So, yeah, definitely. And I also want to touch on for a data point that I don't know if, like, people maybe outside of the message boards know this, but, like, as you were saying, like, it's slim pickings and, like, there's not many, like, good offensive tackles that enter. Last year, Spencer Brown from Michigan State got $500,000 from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I use this example often.
Right. Yeah. So that's how the portal looks. The offensive tackles. If someone that even has size, who doesn't even grade well, who doesn't even look good on tape, but they have size, and a team doesn't have a good offensive tackle situation of their own, they'll pay $500,000 just to get the guy in the building and hope he turns into something. So with that lens and that understanding of that being how the offensive tackle market in the portal works, for Michigan State to get a guy who was all FCS first team this year, who last year was all FCS or all freshman FCS the year before, and hey, he'll have 2 years here, and he's going to get to work with Coach M, and that kind of answers your question of how they were able to do this. So basically, from what it sounded like, even when this was kind of unfolding pretty much like yesterday, I would say, the day before is when we kind of started to hear, like, what the decision would be made surrounding. Cincinnati had big money, and then also the left tackle pitch, I said. Ohio State, they basically told him, like, hey, like, we don't know necessarily if we're going to be playing left tackle, left guard, right guard. Like, you will start here, but we can't guarantee you a guard spot. And they also were putting big money up. But also the other thing here with Connor Moore was he stayed at Montana State one extra season because he liked the family feel. He liked the personalized coaching he was getting. And he was not in a hurry to go jump at a big brand program. And I actually talked to Connor Moore last November, like 14 months ago. And because I was looking at, like, who are the all freshman FCS players across the country, I stumbled upon his name. I saw, like, quite a few Power 5 offensive line coaches were following him last year. So I kind of reached out to him, and I saw he was from Ohio, and I saw, like, maybe a couple Michigan State coaches were following him as well. And I was like, hey, Connor, like, just so I can stay on top of things, like, do you plan to enter the portal? And I talked to him for like a week or so as he was kind of going back and forth on this decision. He was like, he wasn't sure. He was leaning towards it. And then he told me that him and his parents talked about it for a long time. And they wanted to guarantee one more year of this hands-on coaching. They weren't in a rush to go find the greener grass. They didn't want to just go and rush and try to find the next big thing and maybe rock the boat of his career trajectory, maybe like be a one-hit wonder sort of thing. So this is a kid that even back then, when a lot of schools would have taken him, he was approaching this process very organically. And when he got to Michigan State for his visit this week, he said that Michigan State felt like a small school feel when he talked to my colleague, Corey Robinson. And that was huge to him. That mattered. I mean, everyone says this, like everyone that gets big money NIL deals claims like, oh, it wasn't enough.
Right.
But like he could have entered the portal last year and gotten hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not seven figures back then. So it means something when he says it. And he says that it's about the family feel and the small style school that they've replicated here while having the large school resources. And that's how they got it done. And it sounds like Coach Izzo also had some involvement here as well. I don't necessarily know to what extent. I'm going to be talking to Connor Moore the next few days after he moves into his dorm and he has some more free time. And then I'll probably try to write a long form piece on that and maybe get him on the Spartan Spotlight podcast. And we'll really dive into how they kind of got this done.
Love that. Looking forward to it. Like it's a massive get. And, you know, Tom Izzo wasn't just instrumental in that football transfer portal recruitment. He was also instrumental, in this 9th straight Michigan State basketball victory. We're going to talk about that here in a hot second. You like that transition? But first, you talk to people's ears off about TurboTax. That is right, gang. It's going to be right around the corner, tax season. And this message is from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Are you tired of the endless waiting, wondering, and worrying about your taxes? Well, now that's a thing of the past. You see, taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. TurboTax is here to change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. No more waiting for answers. No more wondering if you're missing out on deductions. Whether you've got one form or 20, TurboTax experts gives you gives your taxes the undivided attention while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on what really matters. You won't have to lift a finger, but you will have to get ready for the peace of mind knowing that your taxes are being handled by the pros. Get ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed. Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate so you can focus on your day. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Now let's drag them back out here. It is the one, the only Justin Sin of 24/7 Sports, the Spartan Spotlight podcast. And from one great piece of news over the weekend to another, because things are just coming up, 85 and sunny in East Lansing all of a sudden, your Michigan State basketball Spartans 78, the Northwestern Wildcats 68 in a, by definition, road game. But once again, Chicago was just treated like East Lansing West, baby. That was a nice little home crowd advantage there for Michigan State as they got started off with 47 points in the first half. That isn't against, just some Northwestern team. This Northwestern team was ranked 36th in defensive efficiency nationally going into this game, and Michigan State just took a hammer over their head, and we'll just club the Wildcats like that if you want me to paint that image. Justin, we can fully immerse ourselves into Big Ten title conversations now, right? Especially after we just saw Illinois defecate all over themselves at home against USC. Now, hay is not in the barn yet, of course. We're not counting the chickens before we hatch or whatever cliche you want to use. February is going to be a gauntlet, but hey, right. Perfect in Big Ten play so far. You're seeing everywhere else around you outside of the state of Michigan kind of collapse upon itself like a dying star. The Big Ten title conversation is incredibly valid, is it not?
Absolutely. I think as we were talking about this team the last few weeks, we knew that this month wasn't necessarily going to put the final concrete stamp of approval on this team's kind of ceiling, just because a lot of those games that are coming in February, but I don't know, the way that some of these games are going down, it's hard not to at least start to think that this carries a lot of credence this month, even if this isn't the Illinois and Michigans of the world that they're playing just now. These are good teams, or at least competent teams that they're making look for large stretches of the game far from competent. And that Washington game, you're not even supposed to play low major teams that way.
Correct.
You're right. They're making bad teams look horrendous. And then they're making competent teams look very shaky for large portions of the game. So again, like it's Michigan State and banners are kind of what define the season and things of that nature. But like we can only go by the data points we have right now. And again, like some of them should be taken with a grain of salt, but they couldn't be passing the test on these data points any better than they currently are.
I mean, that knocked it out of the park. And we will talk specifically about this game, but let's just look at the 5 conference games so far. On the road against Minnesota, okay, beat them to oblivion by 18 points. Nebraska comes to town, and not like your old-fashioned Nebraska team, like a solid Nebraska team that could be sniffing the tournament. Beat them by about 80,000 points, it seemed. And then, you go back on the road against Ohio State. Okay, got a little hairy there. They had late momentum. You're down a point at the under 8 timeout. Well, no problem. We're just going to pack you in a box and ship you back to where you belong. And then the Washington game, like you said, they treated them like Okemos High School. And Northwestern come out of the gate just swinging. I'll say it again, 47 first half points. They were able to coast in the second half. I didn't have a big issue with, how the offense played. It wasn't great, obviously, but you can afford yourself that when you take a 19-point lead into halftime. I'm not going to lose my marbles too much over that one. So it's just a delightful start. You got Penn State Wednesday. We'll preview that later this week, but right now on Torvik, you're expected to win that game by 11 points. It is these kind of games, though, on the road in conference play that, first of all, are never a foregone conclusion, and Michigan State fans over the last few years should know that as well as any fan base. But it's those games where you're just, fringe underdogs, or in this case, they actually close as slight favorites on the road, that you have to win these kind of games if you want to stay alive in your conference title chase. Like, there will be some road games where you're going to be steep underdogs, right? Like, at Illinois is not going to be fun. At Michigan's not going to be fun. But, man, if you could just hold your head above water on the road, I know it sounds like the obvious, but I can't tell you how important it is to win road conference games and how much that should be celebrated. I know it's just Northwestern. They only have one conference win. But guess what? It was at home against Illinois, a really good team. Yeah. So I can't be happy enough about Michigan State basketball. I mean, how's that for analysis?
Yeah, and even like the most optimistic people I was talking to just before that Ohio State game, they were saying like quoting them, they were saying like, I think we can beat Ohio State today, and we probably need to just because we're probably going to lose that Northwestern game. Like this was 2 weeks ago, and I didn't. Yeah, exactly. I didn't have any issue with someone making that claim, and now and even larger than that, like the discussion was like, hopefully they can maximize this month. They can go like maybe with just 1 or 2 losses going into March out of this month or into February out of this month, and then pull off some upsets in February. Matt, I don't know if there'll be upsets anymore. So like that's kind of the way that like the perception and the skew of the season has changed. So again, there's a lot left to accomplish, and they frankly haven't accomplished anything in the large sense if they have like the wheels come off here. But like that's kind of the best way to describe the dynamic. It was like maximize this month, stay afloat in the top, and then pull off some upsets, to now they're dominating this month, and they probably won't be upsets if they start having some of those matchups at the end of the year, and we'll see what they do with them.
Yeah, and just to take the computer's word for it, not a blowhard Michigan State fan like myself, but like it has also changed in the analytics too, because going into this, or I guess I should say going into the Washington game, Michigan State was projected to be underdogs in 7 of their remaining games. Right now, they're only projected to be underdogs in 5 of those remaining games, and some of them are razor thin, like at Iowa, just 0.2 point underdogs, at UCLA, 1.1. So the computers are also recognizing, too, that, these Spartan dogs have something going in them right now. So I want to talk a little bit more about this game, maybe circle back to football. We'll see how much time we leave for ourselves, Justin. We love a good tangent when you and I get together. But first, need to talk to people's ears off about Game Time. That's right, guys. I talked about it right at the top of this show. It is the greatest ticketing app out there. And let's say you want to mosey on over to East Lansing to watch your Spartans take on the Nittany Lions on Wednesday. Well, okay, it's a few days ahead of time. Open it up right now. You will get some GT picks. Those are some of the best deals in the best sections for Wednesday's game. Or if you're kind of like myself, you're a bit of a procrastinator at times in life. We're not all perfect, of course. Well, let's say you're just walking up to the stadium, or Breslin Center, I should call it, and you don't have tickets. Well, it's not too late to save money because they have their last-minute ticket deals always popping over at Game Time. And they also want to save you money right off the bat. It does not get any easier with Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's right. Terms apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. It's last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Now let's drag it back out here for one more segment, the one, the only Justin Sin. Now, let's do this show again. We did this after the Washington game. We've done it after the Nebraska game, but really you can kind of somewhat boil this game down to the first half. Right. That's not to say nothing important happened in the second half. Jaden Akins with 2 back-to-back steals. Regardless, Michigan State, they go up 19 at the half. Let's just point out some stats right now. 14 assists on 18 made baskets. 6 of those assists coming from Jeremy Fears in the first half. He just had 1 turnover in the first half. Jaden Akins, 8 points. Jace Richardson, 10 points. But the defense in the first half, still nasty. They held Barnheiser to 0 of 7 shooting. That's the second game in a row where they've held a star player to absolutely no field goals in the first half. Now, of course, Great Osabor, he went the whole game without a field goal, but they held Northwestern to just 8 points in the paint total. Just a marvelous display of defense. They really had Northwestern settling for like 8, 9, 10-foot floaters early on in this game, and they looked happy to take those shots. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it's a little close early on, but if this is going to be the whole game, I like where Michigan State's going to settle at because these aren't all going to fall. I'll ask you the same question I asked Odell Brentham Jr. after the Washington game. What impressed you more today, Justin? Was it the offense or was it the defensive side of the ball for your Spartans?
See, that's always a good question because this team, unlike last year, because last year there were stretches where they were dominant defensively, but they weren't scoring any points at the same time.
Correct.
So yes. You can easily say defense. Like this year, while they're stopping the Barnheisers of the world, they're going ahead and scoring on the other end. Yeah. So it's tough to answer. I think the part for me is the fact that the most impressive thing to me is that the way they weathered the storm in that second half when it was starting to get closer. I guess it wasn't like a 4-point game or something like that, but like it could have easily become that. And it was more so Jeremy Fears. And like the second they put him back in, you saw him just go downhill, drive, dump it off, and then hit everyone when they calm down. Like to me, that's kind of the image that I'll take away from this game, more so than just outright dominating defense or outright dominating offense. And I think that's what'll carry this team late into February and then into March.
I feel like Fears was talking, of course he was, probably gesturing towards the fans, everyone calm down, but I feel like he was really going after Michigan State fans like myself who are still scarred by that Iowa game last year, 2 years ago. I forgot how long ago it was, but I do know is that it has caused permanent damage on me that even when you're up 15 points, it can still get a little hairy in the second half. So I appreciate him telling me and Michigan State fans alike to calm down, because he is a calm, steady presence so far for Michigan State. And the question I want to ask you is, we're a quarter of the way in Big Ten play right now. Obviously, we know that this team is pretty solid. Yeah. What has been the biggest surprise for you so far this season? Because I'll just walk mine out right now. One of my biggest worries going into this season, because what we've seen from Jaden Akins in his first 3 years at Michigan State, and also what we saw in those exhibitions going into the season, is inconsistent, for a word. Like, yes, we've seen him go off for 18 points. Awesome. Look at you, young man. Let's go. And then, he'll disappear for the next week and a half. This is now his 7th straight game in double figures. He is assertive in every single game, and he isn't even having like an extraordinary 3-point shooting year, but he's just getting it done, driving downhill to the basket. And let's also point this out too, 5 steals on the defensive side of the ball today. So, I know that maybe you shouldn't be surprised in the senior, but just based on what we've seen from him the 3 years going into this one, and that his role was going to increase so much with Tyson Walker out of the fold now, I am surprised that we're seeing Akins just routinely get after it and delivering for this team like a senior should. So that's my biggest surprise so far this year, in a world where there's no shortage of surprises. So what do you have, Justin?
Yeah, I have a different one, but I want to definitely agree with you on the Akins thing, because even what we saw like in Spain, like I don't think we tangibly saw like that he took a huge step. And already to begin with, like he wasn't a guy in the half court that was going to break his defender down and score consistently in the half court. More so just kind of transition at the rim and then 3-point shooter on the standstill. And this year he's kind of doing it all. He's not consistently like crossing people up and scoring, but it doesn't matter. Like if he's hitting a jab set, creating space, hitting a mid-range, or he is catching it on a cut and scoring, like that still counts to me as half court like usability. So like he is like he's been a savior for the season among all sorts of people, but like he also adds to the lineage of like guys in their last year taking that step. Like I know like Malik Hall last year like wasn't consistent every game, but I think he was much better than he was his first 3 years here. You look at Aaron Henry, the year he dragged Michigan State to the tournament by himself and kept the streak alive. Just Joey Hauser, like recent years, like these Michigan State seniors went out and they went out with a bang, and he's doing that. So that's great for him. My answer for the biggest surprise, and maybe this was me being so wrong about this guy in the offseason more so than anything, but I think I was in the majority. It's Cohen Carr.
Okay.
Cohen
yeah,
Carr,
that's a good one.
Yeah, Cohen Carr to me last year was not much of a basketball player. He was a jumper. He was a leaper. And I figured like he is so far away from becoming a guy that can be versatile for you and provide you positive contributions and rebounding and defending and scoring in the half court and all these other things. And he's doing it in all those areas now. And you look at kind of Michigan State, the discourse across Michigan State fans last year, which wasn't necessarily incorrect. It was the fact that why are they playing him at the 3? He obviously isn't a 3. He can't play the 3. The staff keeps putting him at the 3. He's not in a position to succeed. That was true. He wasn't really meant to succeed at the 3 last year. But my complaint with that is why? Why does he not have the skill set to play the 3? Why is he not able to succeed at the 3?
Yeah.
He's 6'5". I know his athleticism was more vertical oriented than laterally, but I was thinking like he should be able to play the 3, even if the staff right now shouldn't be playing him there. And Matt, I think this year he has pretty much all the tools you want. Not really a knockdown 3-point shooter, even though he did have a couple threes in a row in back games. And the free throw jump that he's made, what was it, like 18 free throws in a row or something like
21.
that? Like,
he hit a blackjack. It was 21.
Yeah, so like, I don't know, man. Like, again, like it was probably because I was down on him a ton, and I was like, he's like a couple years away from being a versatile basketball player that can contribute positively in many areas. But man, like he's so fun to watch, and he plays so hard. Like there's
so
not
hard.
in the world that he's not going to go after, and he's just everything that Michigan State basketball is supposed to be about. A guy that came here, had low ego, didn't complain about his role last year, really couldn't because he wasn't really producing, and now he developed. And development is what this program is always going to be about. And and what a fun player he's been.
And, you know, when you bring up effort, like, it's not like he's coming down with every rebound, but you saw a little bit of this last year, but he just muddies it up down there and just jars the ball loose, even if it is in the air. Like, it's a freak athlete. So fun to watch. And you know what? And maybe this is another surprise-ish too, but as it pertains to this game specifically, like Carr at 2 points. Booker, you know, his running mate in the same class, he also had 2 points. It's 4 combined points from these guys that you can expect a lot out of. And even to pull a third guy in here, it's not like Trey Holloman lit the world on fire today. He had 3 turnovers, just played still like, okay, that's 3 guys you are counting on for contributions, playing just still beating the brakes off a team on the road. Like this team is just so deep. This is fun. We're smiling. We deserve this, Justin. Us Michigan State fans deserve this after the last few years, and I am just so happy. And God, just the fellas are just cooking right now. Yeah, it's great. Like they're not going to win every game in Big Ten play, but I do like they won the first 5.
The sheer amount of positive storylines from this season is amazing. Just off the charts. Like you could just alone, like Zapala being better than he was supposed to alone could be a storyline that somebody could harp on for ages. And Kohler, the massive jump that he's had. Again, speaking to the player development like Cohen Carr, Jace Richardson coming in this season and being better than everybody thought he was going to be. Yeah. Jeremy Fears, like he is everything that Michigan State fans hope that the transition from Hogarth to Fears would be. I don't know if the box score numbers, I mean, they're not bad. I think it's like 8 and 6.5 that he's averaging or something.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
He could average even less than that. And it's about more than that. It's about the vibes. It's about the way that he's a unifying force on the team. Yep. It's about the way that he's always setting everyone up. He doesn't care about kind of his point totals and all that, but at the same time, he's more aggressive than I thought that was kind of my worry with him is I thought he would be too passive in terms of actually trying to score. So like he's been everything that I think everyone's hoped. Like you could go on and on with these storylines, and I'm gonna kind of try to write about that and explore that and have that out tomorrow. Kind of just reflecting on how the team is right now, how they got to this point, the savvy move that they kind of made with bringing in Zapala instead of kind of trying to disrupt rock the boat of the entire roster and go get like an Osavar or Rabalo. And I don't think the team would have been bought in and playing as unselfishly and as gritty as they do now because of. Or if they would have gone and done something like that. And They could have gotten like a Jonas Idu, who went from Tennessee to Arkansas, who's averaging like 4 points a game and making like $1.5 million.
Not great.
Yeah, like it's easy for them to have made a mistake like that, and this entire trajectory of this team and this program would have been off. So just kind of analyzing stuff like that, I think I want to write a long form piece on that kind of for tomorrow.
No, it's been sensational. Just like this chat, Justin, before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your weekend, I see you got your Eagle shirt on. I'm conflicted because obviously I'm a big Lions fan over here. And sure, yeah, we want to play the 7 seed, the Packers. But like, I'm a coward. I'm a wuss. You could use much stronger words than that. Like, I personally don't want to see the Packers just because I know, like, if they trip us up next weekend, like, I will be the saddest circus clown in the whole complex. So with that said, like, I am in a weird way rooting for your Eagles just so we don't have to see the Packers, but I'm also worried about the Eagles because they're very good. The roster is just built incredibly. Good luck, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I'm rooting for you for today, I think.
It'll be confidently. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how these playoffs unfold because I think there's a lot of teams this year that can win one game, but there's not a lot of teams that can go to the Super Bowl and win a title. I think in the NFC, it's only the Lions and the Eagles. I don't think the Vikings can do it, even though I was high on them all year. Packers, I've actually been down on them all year, so like it would be perfect if they kind of made me look stupid today. But like I don't have really much fear for today's game. But like they're a team that can win one game. The Buccaneers are a team that can win one game. The Rams are a team that can win one game. And there's like a lot of these kind of teams that whether it's this round, whether it's next round, they can pull off a surprise. But there's a clear line of delineation like between the Eagles and Lions and the rest of the conference. And we'll see what happens.
The Rams perplex me because when you watch Matt Stafford against the Lions, he looks like a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. And then you watch him the other 16 games of the season, it's like that's like a tick above average. Like, I don't know. So if he imagines that the Lions are playing against him every game in the playoffs, I would add the Rams into that group, but I don't know how good his imagination is. All right, guys, we will be back throughout the week. Of course, it's Locked On Spartans. We do this 5 days a week. Over there's Justin Sin. You already know who he is. Great work over at 24/7 Sports. Also, Spartan Spotlight podcast. But, gang, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Love you all. God, let's celebrate this. We're smiling in East Lansing. Look at – nothing can stop us. Let's go. Go green. Woo!